It was really interesting to begin conversation with you last year because I felt that you came into the foundation at a moment in which we were looking at all aspects of Robert Rauschenberg, from his history, from his performance work, from the ways in which he interacted with other artists, with musicians, dancers, singers. And one of the things that I think we had never really delved into is his interest in fashion and relationships with fashion. And then you came and started talking to us. Yeah. Why was Rauschenberg interesting to you?
I mean, I've been a huge fan for a very long time, and I'm not an art expert per se, but I know beauty. And I just remember seeing his work more than a decade ago. And it just really resonated with me. The way he mixes things, in the most unusual way, but it's still so beautiful, and there's so much layers to it, right? That when you see it in a picture, it's one thing. When you see it in person, there's a whole nother meaning to it. That was really interesting, and also at this phase of my career, I feel like I have to be making more than clothes. I want to do something that reflects artistry, craftsmanship, and kind of our community as creatives in general, It's also American, which, it's like, as an American designer, that's something that, I'm really proud of, to have been able to collaborate with one of the art legends, and to be able to kind of take two aspects of the creative field and to be able to combine together it was really an honor.
You and Rauschenberg actually would have had a lot in common as people. He also, he started out at the Kansas City Art Institute, but he started out as a fashion major. And clearly gleaned a lot of interest in fashion, but also knowledge about pattern making, design, color, ways of working with natural and synthetic materials. Yeah. He made a wedding dress for a friend. He had made the prom dress for his sister. He'd also had plans as a high school student to become a fashion designer with a friend of his and franchise out into stores across the country. Yeah. When you first saw Rauschenberg's work, you were interested in the Hoarfrost series, which is a series from the mid-1970s. Yeah. Can you tell me what drew you to that series?
Well, I think that series was particularly textile heavy, in terms of layering and also the colors. And 1970s is kind of an era where he, I think, was exploring with a lot of dance. And so I thought that was a nice connection. And just visually, I really go by instinct. When you see a photograph, it's 2D, and in person, there's just so many layers upon layers. We were fortunate enough to get to see what's underneath and all the, that was really fun. And then how do I use the medium of fashion to bring his work to life? And also it moves. It's moving art, How do we do that in an authentic way that wasn't just, kind of lip service, where it's something that just, hey, let's just put a print on an outfit. The whole collection had to be about the ideals of Rauschenberg. So I called the collection Collage.
And you'd said in one of our early meetings that there is a kind of subject word that defines each of your collections.
Yes.
How did you know that collage was that word for Rauschenberg?
His work is, for me, is combining disparate things and making it into one cohesive piece of art, And that to me is kind of the genius of what he does. But to apply that ideal throughout the entire collection, every piece, the way it's layered. So a dress could be, layered with 8, 9 different fabrics, and sometimes we just found scraps from our archives and then did it, because it was kind of reflecting the idea that he took different things that were not considered valuable sometimes, and then put it together, and it's something that was kind of amazing.
I looked at your runway show, the footage from the runway show again today, and I thought to myself that it is so interesting that you had these multiple looks, and you had the models move through the artwork that was that sort of served as the structure of the entire show. A Quake in Paradise from 1994. Yeah. Can you tell me why you selected that work?
Well, I mean, I think a lot of Rauschenberg's work it's on the wall, and I was thinking, the idea of kind of a labyrinth. I think it was important to have his work as actually integrated into the show. I knew we couldn't show at a traditional show space or even an art gallery. That would seem a little bit. It seemed to come, a little bit too normal. So we found a warehouse in Brooklyn, and which used to be a fish warehouse, and it was just, it was industrial. It felt really Rauschenberg, and then to bring something that is kind of so so valuable and so, no one ever gets to see that in person. To be able to install that in a place that's not an art gallery, and even the consideration, instead of curtains covering the backstage, I wanted panels of plywood. I wanted that whole environment down to every little detail to feel like Rauschenberg. There's so much pop culture within his work that can be explored. So for example, one of the pieces had he had the chow bag series, but one of the Hoarfrost series had a Purina dog chow thing, and I thought it was really interesting for me to be able to explore American culture, something you see every single day, And so he's worked with Coca-Cola, he's worked with, so many newspaper clippings,
yes,
all of those things, And I think that kind of all became really interesting for me to explore, and to all the way to, let's say, Michelle Obama on the cover of People magazine, wearing Rauschenberg, I mean, I did not plan that, but it happened that way, which was really nice, to have an American First Lady wear an American designer by an American artist. It was kind of amazing, and I thought it was important that it was a People magazine, because I think there's an aspect where where it has to kind of continue, art has to continue in the space of popular culture. I think what's interesting about our collaboration is that it goes past the show.
And so, do you think about bodies when you're designing?
We have to, we're the bodies, kind of the canvas, and ultimately a piece of clothing really doesn't come alive until somebody wears it, and that's something that's different between what I do and what Rauschenberg does, is that it's shown in a different way. What I've learned working with other artists is that it's about an understanding between whoever I'm working with. It's very direct, and I've been lucky to have worked with you and to work with other artists that have just given me the liberty of interpreting the work in my way and through my eyes. But I also, it allows me to fully immerse myself into their world as well. So that's what I find really interesting, and we're both really keen. Our works are both kind of signs of our times.